Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back. All right, we got some people hopping in on our Zoom line. And guys, if you're in our Facebook group, have a little bit of the inside scoop to come into the Zoom. If you're in our Facebook group, if you're on our Instagram, coming into the Zoom rooms, just giving you a little bit more access. Good evening to everyone in the Zoom room. We're going to go live on Instagram as well. How exciting for everyone here. How exciting.
Please don't stand on the glass table here.
Good evening to everyone joining. Okay, so we're back. Guys, we're on IG. We're live again on Instagram. Patricia, how are you? Seeing a lot of familiar parents and faces with us today. So we're going to jump right in, okay? So most of you know, if you've been on our email list, that we are doing a 3-day series. It's a 3-day series. We started yesterday, okay? It is technically reserved for parents who have children enrolled in French immersion or in French first language school, okay? So if you just want to hang out and that's not you, that's okay. But if you are a parent who has a child in French immersion or French first language, you're going to kind of get a little bit of what's going on. All right. So welcome once again. If you know a parent who should be in this room, forward them the Zoom link. Okay. Sharing is caring. We're live in our Facebook group. Hi, Facebook. We're live on our Zoom chat, who is kind of where we are very intimately. And we're also live on IG. All right. So welcome to everyone who's joining in. So today, this is part 2 of our 3-day series. And I wanted to make sure that, as I shared yesterday, that you as a parent of a child who is in the French program, that you are equipped, you are informed, you have questions to ask. You may even have some aha moments that, oh my goodness, I know that makes sense for me now, right? With what your child is learning, even with what maybe your child's teacher is sharing. And we want you to be informed with the conversations that you have, okay? So today's subject that we're going to speak about, it has everything to do with pronunciation. So we have a couple parents who attend our parents class that we do, and they almost have like confessionals to me. They say, Elise, my biggest issue is the French pronunciation. I cannot get my mouth and the words to do what you guys are doing. How do I do this? So I will be completely transparent. French is not an easy language to pick up in a flash, okay? I shared yesterday that it is indeed a marathon, not a sprint. So if your child is just beginning, okay, SK, grade 1, grade 2, even their muscles, okay, even their muscles are being molded to get the pronunciation off correctly, okay, out correctly. So today I wanted to go into one of my favorite parts of the language. It is a little bit more fine print. It is a little bit more of the details, but I want to just have you guys invite you to sit in and listen on this conversation because the intricacies of the language actually matter, okay? There's fine print. There are changes, even physically, that you can begin to become aware of, that tweaking it, having an awareness and helping your child make those improvements. Okay, we're just muting everyone on the Zoom, no problem. So just being aware of what parts of the language exist and kind of what steps are needed to get to the most accurate pronunciation as possible. Okay, so feel free to take out your notepads because we're in class, guys, for the next 30 minutes together. All right, so the first piece I want to call out is silent letters. French is that language where these silent letters, it's kind of comes down to a little bit of memory work. All right, so it isn't this language where, automatically you'll know which letters are silent, because depending where they are placed is if they are pronounced or not, okay? So some French words contain silent letters or letters that aren't pronounced, right? We can maybe know that if our kids are in grade 3 and up, all right? Here are some general rules for silent letters in French. This is overall. The letter H, and this is a lesson that I taught earlier to my homeschool crew in Alberta. The letter H isn't usually pronounced in French words unless it's associated with a C, okay? Making that sh sound, okay? Starting out there. The letter U isn't pronounced if it appears after a G or Q, but it changes the pronunciation of the G. So when we get a little bit more focused on your children in French immersion or in French school nailing the spoken French is for a reason, because one mispronunciation, and we see it very often, can change the meaning of a word. So it is important that we nail or work to the perfection of our sounds. Okay, so silent letters. The letter N in French is silent when it's associated with another letter that creates a nasal sound. And we're going to get into what a nasal sound is. Exactly. We're going to break it down today. Okay, welcome to school. Welcome to your evening class. The letter I isn't pronounced if it comes after an O, because OI in French is meant to sound like wa. Why? Okay, so it has that sound wa. If you've heard of the word oiseau, that is a bird in French, against OI, okay? The E at the end of words is typically silent unless the E has an accent aigu. We spoke about the accent aigu yesterday, okay? So when a accent appears on a letter, it changes the sound, specifically with E, okay? The letters S, X, T, D, G, and P, and this is one we actually teach. It's a part of our ongoing lesson. So if you're going to write one thing off of this specific page, I would say that, oh, hopefully everyone can hear me. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm getting a little message to that there's no volume, but can we hear me? Oui? Thumbs up if you can hear me, guys. Merci. Good. Perfect. Turn up the volume, okay, guys? Make sure your settings on your Zoom are turned up, okay? Beautiful. Okay, so if you're to write one thing off of this specific section, because this is something you as a parent can observe very easily, I want you to write down the letters S, X, T, D, G, and P. Write those down, okay? This is your teachable moment you can have with your students at home. If you see them, you know, if you're practicing and they're working on French vocabulary, French readings, and you see any of these letters appear at the end of a word, remind them those are words that are usually silent. Those letters, pardon me, are usually silent, okay? So an example I like to say, our students love in the early years saying merci beaucoup, okay? Thank you very much. But that P at the end sound, guys, does not exist. It's just merci beaucoup, okay? That P is there, written, but we're not saying it. So take note of those letters, okay? Making sure that you'll know when someone's pronouncing it. You'll hear them kind of stress that X or that T at the end, okay? Take note, those are silent letters. They should be silent. Now, when we talk about vowels, so in French, we start always at the basics, but we never take the basics off the table. The basics will always exist because they're the foundation of the language. There are 6 vowels in the French alphabet, just like English, okay? A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y, that exists in the French alphabet. But here's the thing with this French conversation. French, while it has 6 vowels, has 19 vowel sounds. So the sounds matter. We're talking about pronunciation today, right? So there's 12 oral sounds, 4 nasal, and 3 for the semi-vowels. So we'll dig a little deeper into what the breakdown of that looks like, okay? But once again, informing you why the language can get a little bit complicated, but once you're aware, we can start to address and work on those pieces, okay? So the differences between them is that you have to know how they're pronounced. And I always say French is it's a physical language in that the way you move your mouth matters. That's why I like to see faces in classrooms when we're teaching, because one movement of your lip, one tightening, right? One opening, one tongue position changes the sound. So oral vowels, which we'll know what those are pronounced mainly using the mouth. Okay? Nasal vowels, they're pronounced when air passes through the nose and mouth. Semi-vowels, which we also call glides, are, to pronounce them, you have to glide quickly between the 2 vowel sounds that create the syllable. Okay, so we're going to go into examples of what those mean, but wanted to break down how 19 sounds come from 6 vowels. Okay, here we go. So our French vowels we shared are A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y. Okay, we broke down that while there are 6 vowels, there are 19 vowel sounds. So when we talk about phonics, okay, and the phonetics of a language, this is not something that's isolated to French, okay? We sometimes assume that English is easy because most of us speak it, even if it's not a first language. We get to speak it because English is very often passively happening around us, and we're learning even when we're not trying to. So people around us are speaking, might listen to English media, might hear English radio, English songs, okay? All of these things are implanting language, tools, and techniques without us knowing. But when we're talking about understanding the international alphabet, okay? This is something that was designed by linguists, people actually study language, okay? To represent very accurately the variety of sounds that make up human speech. So I know a lot of you, very often you tell me we speak a different language in the home. Maybe your family comes from somewhere where there's another language that's spoken. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. And linguists actually document these to show the distinction between sounds across all languages, okay? So, for example, okay, in English, the different sounds, they're called phonemes, all right? That's just getting technical right now, but they're what helps us distinguish one word from another. So for example, in English, okay, most of us speak English, okay? Words like sat, bat, and cat can be distinguished from each other by the sounds that make up their first syllables. So while all end in AT, they start with different letters, and us having a comprehension of the English language know right away these mean different things right away. Sat, bat, cat. All right. So this is something I want you guys to take away. I'm not going to play Madame Alexa, but I do want you to just make a note, okay? I'm a huge supporter of Madame Alexa on YouTube. So I want you guys just to make a note, Madame Alexa, and, check out her content, but also for the purpose of this lesson, if you're looking to enhance your child's pronunciation, this is a great place to start with Madame Alexa. The title's right here, French vowel sounds, A, E, I, O, U. Okay, on YouTube, you just can make a note. Once you enter on YouTube, you'll find Madame Alexa. Remember her face, okay? And the key, of course, to pronunciation, you don't just let your child, or if you're learning, hear it. They got to repeat after her, okay? Repeat after, that's what makes it permanent. All right, so when we spoke about the different vowel sounds, let's start with the breakdown. So oral vowels, okay? These are covered, and you're kind of seeing these letters look a little bit abnormal if you're not used to looking at language this way. But this is just showing, in the IPA, so in that International Phonetic Alphabet I spoke about, there's a way to write certain letters, which if you are a linguist, you understand that language. It's almost the language of sound, if you will, okay? So here are a few examples of oral vowels, okay? We're categorizing them, oral vowels. So the A sound, okay? That's using the first letter of the French alphabet, A, as in Paris, Paris, okay, en français, okay? The English equivalent is apple, Paris, apple, okay? It's a sound there. When we're talking about that E accent aigu, this was actually the sound of the day for my class earlier, but E accent aigu, or that's what it's written as, okay? But the sound of it is A. That can look like ER, that sound, ER is still A. ET, ET is still A. AI, A, right? So just showing you as well, different endings can still equal the same sound. That's how we're getting all these layers with the vowel sounds, okay? Some examples in French can include été, which is summer, nez, which is nose. The sound is A. The English equivalent is okay, right? That sound exists in English too, just showing you guys those contrasts. Okay, été, same sound. Now, when we're talking about the E with the accent circonflexe, okay, in French, your kids may call it the little chapeau as an accent, but these sounds as well can, while it exists looking like this, it can also exist with an AE, with an AI, or an EI, okay? Examples in French, laine, which is wool, or lettre, which is letter. The English equivalent is felt. All right, now this is like a linguistics seminar session, but just want to show you guys the breakdown and some pieces your children are learning, right? Maybe not at this level of fine print detail, but as we mentioned before, the goal is to have you as parents equipped and informed with what this language breakdown is all about, okay? When we're looking at I, okay, the sound is E. French is so interesting. The I, letter I on our French alphabet is pronounced E, okay? E like E English, but it's I, all right? So in French, those words can include livre, which is book, île, island. That sound also exists in English, and the equivalent is C. You hear that E, okay? Same as île, island. Beautiful. When we're looking at our O sound, some examples, okay? Once again, the endings can be AU. It can be EAU. Examples in French include O, water, mot, word. The English equivalent is float, like floating, okay? Pay attention, because we can see how the letters are pronounced between two languages. So even when you are looking at your child's French schoolwork, it isn't almost as far away from English as we think it is. Because as you can see in just these examples, while the words don't matter per se in this case, it's the sound. All right, so it's almost training your mouth to perfect your French sound, but knowing that if you really think about it, these sounds exist in English, so it's somewhere in our memory bank. We just got to pull it out and apply it to the language at hand. It's making sense? I hope so, guys. So nasal vowels, how's our IG crew doing? You guys are learning? Hopefully you guys are hanging out and enjoying. So when we're talking about nasal vowels correspond to these sounds, and nasal vowels here's how I put it. If you heard someone say nasal vowels over and over again, you might say, okay, that's enough talking, because nasal vowels are, they're pretty distinct, okay? So I'm gonna give you some examples here today. So the first, and I'm gonna go through all of them, then we'll break it down. So the first nasal vowel, remember we spoke about the passageway that these sounds need to come through, okay? How you move through the sound to get it out categorizes it as a nasal vowel. So the first one is on. Do you guys see my mouth, my Zoom fam? On, okay? The second nasal sound, you guys can feel free in your own space right now to repeat after me, because these are sounds you're going to be hearing a lot or hearing in your videos or your child's schoolwork, okay? The second nasal sound is ang. Can you guys imagine hearing that sound over and over? Ang. Right? Second nasal sound, ang. Third nasal sound, on. My lips are automatically moving to get that sound out, on, but it's coming through nasal passageway, okay? On. And then we have So our nasal sounds, can you hear all the different feels already? Can you guys feel the difference? Okay, so we're having on, so I hope you guys are repeating at home, because yes, good. Are we hearing the difference? Beautiful. So these are a few examples of nasal sounds. I'm not going to dive too deep into them, because I want to share with my Zoom attendees these slides after, just so you can process it, okay? So today we're very high level understanding the intricacies of French pronunciation, because it is a very beautiful, often rushed through part of the process. But for me, it's very much the bottom line, okay? We want to perfect our sounds, then we want to perfect our comprehension after that, okay? We want to sound good, okay? So semi-vowels. These are a few examples. I'm probably going to zoom through this part, okay? So the semi-vowels is when the sound uses the letters, and we have an example here, E, okay? A, right? We have other examples in words like moyen, okay? We spoke about that OI being a bit intricate, so it's not pronounced how we think it would be pronounced, that wa sound. Okay, wa, like oiseau, we spoke about, okay? And then we have the letters U and I. So the letter 8 in French is wit. Wit. That U and I gives a very specific sound, wit, which is letter 8. Okay, so once again, I will share this presentation with you, but just wanted to make sure you guys are seeing why so many vowel sounds come along, okay? French consonants. So there are 20 French consonants and 19 consonant sounds. This is because some consonants make the same IPA, okay, International Phonetic Alphabet sound. For example, K and a hard C in French both have that same sound, k, k. Okay? Here are a few examples of consonants as they're categorized by their sound. Now, when we're looking at the letters B, bo. When we're looking at C and K and Q, U, E, casse, casse. Okay, we see that? C-A-S-S, E accent aigu. Remember, we spoke about that E accent aigu having a consistent sound of A, right? So it's building the pieces together. Casse means broken, right? When we're looking at the letters S, double S, C, or C, C, D, okay, that accent on the C, let's take a little 5 on it. We taught this earlier to our adult class that we did midday today, that CCD, that accent softens your C. If you do not see that accent, this accent on your C, it's going to be a hard C sound. that we saw up here. Where do we see that? Up here. All right. Once you see that accent, you are smooth sailing, soften that C. Okay. So an example is garçon. Garçon, like boy. Okay. If that C with the accent did not exist on that garçon word, it'd be pronounced galcon, because is the original sound. That accent on the bottom changes everything. Okay. All right. So I want to leave you guys in the next couple minutes with some top tips, because wouldn't it all be in vain if you didn't know what to do with this information that you got today, and how to really work on perfecting and even just practicing your children's French sounds at home. So one of the things I will say, I'm just going to put it out there. Your kids love games. Sometimes we're like, you guys come to me and say, Elise, they're addicted to the iPad. I said, great, let's put some phonics. Let's put some French content on that iPad then. Okay, let's ingest, let's balance out Roblox is actually educational, and so is Minecraft, but let's mix in some French content there. Okay, so interactive phonics games. These are designed for learning French, and there are tons I can share with you guys after the call that is fun for children. It isn't always about lessons feeling like a lesson or extra classes feeling like you're in school again. There is a lot of game-based learning that helps with their retention. So like I said, it's important not that your kids are just memorizing certain things. The retention is equally as important, because we all know how it feels. Who knows what you studied either in high school or after high school? Who knows the feeling, guys, of just cramming for a test? I have to admit I have. There are things I did in school and university, I have no idea. I don't know. I studied for the exam. Now it's over and I have no idea. So what we're looking for is kids who do repetition. Repetition, the purpose should be for retention. Okay, practice does not make perfect. Practice for me makes permanent. That's what we're here to do. Second, use mouth and lip exercises. So quite a few times today, I asked you guys to pay attention to how my mouth was moving. Okay, the way that we perfect pronunciation, yes, it has to do with us knowing what the sounds are and where they come in, where they're silent, but it's also physical. So how we move our lips. I tell French beginners, the more you feel like you're exaggerating the sound, the closer you're probably getting to it, because your mouth, we're naturally, whatever language we speak, we're leaning, we're falling back on that. It's just, it feels better to do that as a crutch, okay? But French, it's very distinct how the sounds are, and you need to train your mouth, okay? We gotta train our mouth. So mouth and lip exercises, okay? Make it matter, make it physical. Third, leverage technology. So I am a supporter of apps like Duolingo, okay, Rosetta Stone. Those are great supplements to learning. That's very good when the children can listen and repeat phrases to practice their pronunciation, all right? So just making sure that you are incorporating other pieces of learning, because learning is not just for the classroom, it's appropriate for outside the classroom as well, for the reinforcement and the practice, okay? Then we're talking about engaging in regular conversation. So this is something that you can find whatever resource in this area works for you, but it is important that your kids, well, from what I've heard, they're not really speaking French at school all the time, right? Even though they're in French school, but have them engage where possible with people who speak French, whether it be peers, whether it be extra classes that they take, whether it be your neighbor who speaks French. And it's like, okay, just have a little chit chat with them. All right. The more you speak, the better you'll get. That's just the nature of it. And real world practice, I tell people, it's like learning how to dance to different music. So when I hear things like, oh, I know that Parisian French is probably like, the elevated French. It's great, right? I respect French from Europe, Canadian French, African French, all French to me is on the same playing field. Accents differ because we're all from different parts of the world, right? Imagine saying Canadian English is the best English in the world, you know? So when you can understand and have real world practice, you're learning to dance to different rhythms and tones in the language. So if you hear someone speaking African French, you're not thrown off. You know how to dance and move to that music, that beat, that rhythm, that accent in Africa. If you hear someone who is speaking, they're in Belgium, speaking French, and you know how to move to that rhythm. So the more people you speak to, the more you expose your child to different kinds of French speakers, the better off real world, almost appreciation for the language they will have. That's important. We want to have well-rounded, global-minded children, okay? Then finally, record and playback. I'm a huge fan of this. We're in the age of technology where this is so easy. Our cell phones, iPads, if you have a laptop, have your children record themselves reading French text. Have them be the measurement stick for themselves, okay? Playing it back. Maybe you have one text that you choose, and that's their passage for the month. Every week, they're recorded, nothing too long, reading that text. You as a parent, while you may not speak the language, you can make some pretty good observations. You can usually tell, they're stopping a lot when they're reading, or, oh, saw them kind of struggling to say a certain word. So see if you can make some observations as they read those texts multiple times over the time period, the month, or whatever time period you choose, okay? And this method helps your child to self-assess. Like I said, have them be the judge, have them be the critic of themselves, and improve their pronunciation over time. All right, so I wanna honor your time. We're gonna wrap there for tonight's session. I do hope you guys found this valuable. As usual, I welcome any questions. While you guys are figuring out if you have questions, feel free to let me know, in the chat, no problem. If you have any questions, let me know. I did want to mention, so for those parents who have been wanting additional pronunciation and additional help for their child's French learning, we are doing an 8-week program starting next week. It is focused on French reading comprehension. If you wanted some more details, you are welcome to send me a message. We can set up time to have a conversation. Some parents on the call, your children are already enrolled in our programs. So thank you for your ongoing support. If there are no questions, I am happy to allow you guys to enjoy the rest of your evenings. Okay, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Tomorrow, same time, guys. It's the last and final evening of our 3-part series. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Tell a friend, you know, someone who needs to be here, tell them. All right, you guys have a good evening. Bye-bye.